mariner. He misses the water, so he joins the lighthouse service in the United States, becomes the first lightkeeper out here on Charity Island. Came out here with his wife, Catherine, and their 12 children. Oh. There's a good Catholic man. There's a Catholic man.
You know, my father said he had a lot of presents.
He was a blessed man, wasn't he?
10 tithes.
And then he goes on and he tells me that this woman had 6 boys all in a row and then had 6 girls all in a row.
Oh, wow.
And they all came out here as a family. He said the boys were already old enough when they arrived, that on days when the lake conditions were right and they could see the masts on the wooden sailing ships coming up out of the Saginaw River, they'd jump in the rowboat and start rowing, because they knew if the men saw them coming out, they would throw over supplies and newspapers. The boys couldn't get out there in time, but they knew they'd be out there floating, and these boys would scoop up the wet newspapers and supplies. He says, and they would bring them back to their father, who would dry those newspapers out in front of the fireplace, and that's how he got his news on how the Civil War was going. I thought, what an amazing stroke of luck that this woman came out here and wrote this story. It ends up, a man reads it down there in Naples, Florida, and I was able to get all this information. You know, otherwise, how would I have ever known anything, you know, that we had a newspaper delivery service on Charity Island in 1857. I thought, yeah, I mean, the story just, you know, it just kind of fell in our lap. Right when I need these stories, because people are coming out and I'm trying to share some information and I get asked questions and I have to go do research. And then this other story, equally as amazing, falls in my lap. I find out that in the spring of 1885, we've got a young man on his way out here. He's going to be the assistant lightkeeper for the next 5 years. He's 18 years old. Never been here before, and he's never even heard of this place before. And I learned that when he arrived in May of 1885, he had packed and brought something out here that probably every one of us would have packed if we knew we were going to go somewhere and we're going to have all this time on our hands. I learned he brought a big, thick novel out here to help fill the long hours out here. I got to hold the book the young man brought out here in 1885. And when it got shoved in my face, I was like, what, are you serious? Is this a joke, is what I was thinking, because the title of the book is Mysterious Island. Now, how could that be, right? Did his mom think, oh, my son, he's going to be a lightkeeper, he's going out to an island? Oh, look, it's the perfect, maybe she was shopping for him, I don't know. But maybe he just saw it. I had to run back now and find out, a lightkeeper out here on my island, he brought this novel. What was he reading? And I'm floored by the synopsis that I get on Google. Because it turns out this book was written by Jules Verne, published in France in 1875. Now it's been translated into English. It's over here 10 years later. This man's got it out on the island. And get this. It's a story about 5 Union soldiers, and they've been captured by the Confederate Army. They're being held prisoner in a southern town. And they're free to walk the streets during the day, even though they're prisoners of war. Tells you what kind of world they lived in back then. They say on the south end of the town that the Confederate Army's got one of those hot air balloons that they're using to monitor troop movements periodically. One night the winds are blowing, it's gusty, it's noisy, it's dark. These men decide they're going to try and make an escape. They sneak through town. They crawl in that hot air balloon basket and they cut the lines. This thing takes off into darkness. They're hoping the winds are going to carry them to freedom, but they don't know. These winds are the beginnings of a hurricane, and these men get blown 7,000 miles out over the ocean. They're fighting for their lives in the ocean, and then they wash up on a small island out in the middle of nowhere. They've got no idea where they're at, and this is what really knocked me over. Amongst themselves, these 5 Union soldiers decide they're going to name this place after their commander-in-chief, the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. And I'm going, holy cow, does he know he's on an island reading this book? And it was acquired with Abraham Lincoln's signature. I just thought, what an amazing stroke of coincidence there. You know, right? Isn't that, come on, don't make me feel awkward here. I thought well, I'm telling the story, and I never read the book. It's Jules Verne. It's kind of a classic. I'm telling this story one night to a group of people. We had almost 100 people out here. And a man in the middle, after I get to the end of this, he raises his hand. He says, what did you think about the ending? I said, well, to be honest with you, all I ever did was read the synopsis. He tells me he's a cancer surgeon in Houston, Texas, but he was born and raised and went to school in France. And he's up here in Saginaw on some seminar, and somebody said, you got to come out to Charity Island. I'm telling this story, and he wants to know what I think about the ending. He's read it 3 times as a young boy in France, in the French version. And I said, I didn't get to the ending. He says, well, you've had enough time to read it. I'm going to ruin it for you. And everybody else. He says, at the end of the book, that island sunk out from underneath those men. They ended up back in the ocean again. Pause. And then he says, then they were rescued by a man that came along in a submarine named Captain Nemo. I went, you're kidding me. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's a sequel. Who knew that? Nobody else knew that either. I said, wow, well, geez, thanks for ruining the book for us. But yeah. Yeah, I would have never known it. And that story has nothing to do with Charity Island, but I just can't help taking you there every time. Yeah, well, you don't know about it. Not yet. I'm not even getting warmed up yet. Hang on. Many years later, though, this young man's a retired ship's captain. He's living over in Duluth, Minnesota, and he's living with his daughter. He's got a little granddaughter, and over the years, he shares stories with that little girl about his 5 years out here, and many times he told that little girl, now when you grow up and you get a chance to go to Charity Island, don't pass it up. It's so beautiful out there. You need to go see it, and you'll be able to see the light tower I was responsible for so many years ago as a young man. He told her how he brought this old novel out there, and it took him all summer to read it. He told her how, but finally that night he finished reading it. That's when he opened up the inside cover. And then he wrote, to commemorate tonight, he wrote his name, William L. Pierce, December 4th, 1885, Charity Island.
Wow.
Yeah, before he died, he gave that little girl the book, and he said, now here, you keep this, and when you grow up and get to Charity Island someday, take the book, get it out there one more time, you remember me. She had it with her about 5 years ago. She was about 70. She was 79 years old when she got out here. She had the book with her, yeah.
That's fantastic.
That was kind of fantastic. She almost didn't make it. I got 2 full boats booked. 100 people going to serve out here on a Saturday night, and I got to call everybody up and say, forget it, we're not going. I got 6-foot waves, 30-mile-an-hour winds, small craft warnings. We can't go. I call everybody up before 11 o'clock in the morning to let them know, stay home. Couldn't get a hold of one party, the Ellisons, and I don't know who they are, why they're coming. Hour before the scheduled departure time, though, here comes this elderly lady in. She wants her boarding passes, and we operated a store over in Au Gres, and the girl behind the counter said, oh, man, we're sorry, I've been trying to call you all day. We're not going. We got high winds. They canceled the trip. Oh, no, you don't understand. I don't care about that dinner. I don't care about those winds. I've been waiting my whole life. You better find the owners. I'm not leaving. And she goes, well, yeah, he's just in the back. I'll go get him. And she said, you got to get out here. She's really upset. This lady isn't, you know. So as I'm coming out to break, you know, reinforce the bad news, she sees me walking up. She's reaching in her tote bag. Out comes this old book. You don't understand. My grandfather was a lightkeeper out on Charity Island. I said, really, ma'am? Oh, I'm sorry. We can't. No, we can't go. The wind's canceled. You know, the trip's over. No, I don't care about those winds. I promised him I would get out there. And he had this book out here, and she shoves it in my face, and I'm going, no, we can't go, ma'am. I'm sorry. Your grandfather took this book out there as a young. Really, no kidding. And she takes it out of my hand. Next thing I know, she's got it open. And she's shoving this page in there. She goes, right there. She's on the other. That's it right there. And I'm looking at it. Oh, my gosh. William L. Pierce, December 4th, 1885, Charity Island. Wow, this is, man, that's really something. But I'm sorry. Can't go. We're not going to go. There's a nice restaurant down the street, and I'm trying to walk her to the door. I don't care about that. My husband's going to be so angry with me. We've been 2 days on the road, and I got my 3 sons and their wives and grandkids out in the van. And yeah, no, ma'am, no, we're not going to go. I'm sorry. And yeah, really, I'm terribly sorry. Maybe you can book another time. And I get her out the door, and I look in the van. I see an elderly gentleman. Sorry, you know, and I start heading back to Long Island, this convenience store, to my office over in the corner. I hear the door open, and then I hear a man's voice. Where is he? And I turn and look, and the girl's going, that's him. And he comes marching down this aisle. He doesn't stop till he's right in my face, and he's poking me in the chest. I'm on a battleship for 5 years during World War II. I didn't raise any sissies. I just know if this was the day you were going to take your family out to Charity Island. He goes, you take them out there. He goes, didn't my wife just tell you? She's been waiting her whole life. I got 3 sons and a bunch of grandkids out there, and all they've heard about is that island and that lighthouse out there and her grandfather. I've been in the van for 2 days with those kids. You don't tell me I'm not going out to Charity Island. said, Mr. Ellison, whether I'd go out there with my family or not, I don't want to be responsible for all those people out there. And we got small craft 46-foot waves. I'm not so sure I would go out there. I'm sorry, can we just reschedule this for another day? I just told you I'm 84 years old. How many more chances do you think I got to get that woman out there? And I'm like, oh, wow. And I'm trying to wiggle this way and that way, and he isn't letting me. So I kind of made up a little scenario. I had no intention of going through with it, but I said, well, listen, you know, late in the afternoon, sometimes it lays down when it lets up when the sun starts going down. If you want to stick around town till late in the afternoon and meet me down at the boat, I'll take a look out there. And if the winds are starting to subside and I could get your family out there safely, maybe we could get out there. I got a new catamaran. Handles rough water pretty good, but I haven't been out in anything like that. And I just want to warn you, if you decide to stick around, I'm not guaranteeing you anything. I'll be back at 6 o'clock, he says, and out the door he goes. I get home. I got a picture window about as big as this opening. And when I sit on my couch, I'm about as close to the water as I am right here. And I'm watching the whitecaps. And I'm watching this dark green water and they're real dark, low, heavy, fast-moving clouds scooching across. My trees are just constantly doing this. And every once in a while, those clouds are dumping water. And a gust of wind is throwing it up on my window. And I'm watching it go down. And I know there's no way we're going to Charity Island. I think it's even getting worse. And I don't even look at the clock anymore because there's a good game on and I'm not getting off the couch. My wife comes around the corner. She goes, oh my God, it's 20 after 6. What are you doing standing there? You promised those people you'd go down there. Honey, it was in the Navy for 5 years. I made it perfectly clear. If it wasn't letting up, we weren't going, and I think it's blowing worse out there. But you don't know they're not down there. What if she's standing out there in the rain, that poor lady? What if that was your grandmother? You can't sit there. And I knew I couldn't now because she's not going to leave me alone. So I got to put the remote down, and I made a mistake and said, you want to go with me? Come on. And of course, she follows me around everywhere. So, no, she's not there. No, okay. So we get in the car, I go down a mile from my house to the marina, and I look. Oh, there's my boat, and oh my God, there they are. They're in a huddle. She's got this book in her arms. Her whole family's around her. All these people, they're all looking out to Charity Island. I can get as close to them about from here, maybe from there to where you're sitting back there. And it's blowing so hard, the rain's coming down. They don't even hear my car pull up till I beep the horn, and they all turn and look at me. And as she starts walking towards me, I roll the window down and stick my head out there. Mrs. Ellison, you don't want to go out there today? She doesn't say anything. She just keeps coming. She didn't hear what I said. She gets right up to the car window. Are you going to take us out there today? And I looked at my wife. It was so pathetic, and I felt so bad. I said, yeah, sure, we'll give her a try. My wife does a double take. You're kidding, right? I said, you know what? We'll get them out there a couple of miles. We'll see how bad